Welcome to Day Zero Update for April 6, 2025. I'm your host, Chris Halogi.
I'm Brandon Perkins.
And I'm Janra Victoria.
And yeah, boy, this week has been a week.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just say, largely the two big topics of the week has been the Nintendo Switch 2 and Donald Trump. I'll tell you how they intersected here and made, let's say, a lot of this direct pure chaos, I guess.
Yeah.
That we don't know, even with all the info we have, what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fun place to be, or a thing that's supposed to be out in less than 2 months now.
Yep.
So we'll get to that stuff here in a bit.
You want to call that fun?
Yeah. We'll get to that stuff here in a bit, but we do have some other news, but it kind of pales in comparison to everything that went on with that Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. So we'll get to that stuff. We'll talk about what we've been playing first. I'll start here with I've been playing some The Root Trees Are Dead. This is a game on Steam that I would very much say it is, let's say, heavily inspired by Return of the Obra Dinn. In a lot of ways, the basic conceit is that the Root Tree family, the Root Tree Candy Company, is sort of a big corporation that makes candy, and all that's run by the family itself. The current president, his wife, and their 3 daughters have all perished in a plane accident or a plane crash. And so you are tasked, for some reason, you are just randomly approached by this woman as like some potentially skillful genealogy person to map out the Root Tree family tree to figure out which people are blood relatives, and those that will get a cut of the company and inheritance and all that stuff that's going on. And so along the way, you're kind of this is set in the 90s, so you are using a 90s-esque PC interface, along with a browser that is called, I think, Netscape Explorer. That's basically you're searching for, people's names, names of books and movies and companies and various things that are tied to these various people, and trying to get information, and it's deliberately limited in the sort of information it gets, so that you're kind of puzzling things out and trying to figure out, like, okay, you're initially trying to get the names of the 3 daughters and all that. You find, like, oh, maybe one of their names that they use publicly is not their actual first name, and so you kind of have to figure out things like that, as well as get pictures of them, and sometimes even extra pictures you can attach to their parts of the family tree, as well as being a big family tree for this. You end up having people that are named after others, and so it's like, okay, I may have people with the same names, so you have to go try and figure out, like, okay, wait, I have this person with the middle name, this person junior, that kind of thing. And you're like, okay, I gotta go try and figure out where all this is going, and you find lots of interesting bits of story of, like, these people, this part of the family that's keeps naming their kids after the patriarch, but how that all ends up changing over the generations, or these people that have the same jobs, because you also have to attach a title to them, some sort of job to them. So you figure out, like, okay, this person, there's been 5 presidents of this company, and you're kind of dealing with which order did they take over that mantle, as well as gathering lots of evidence. You end up getting access to a periodical search, which can give you extra details on things, as well as a public library search because there are books involved, and maybe some parts of the family are authors and all that. So you're kind of digging for information there, and a lot of stuff gets printed out to be your evidence that you can, pull pictures from and other bits of information. Nicely, it lets you highlight things and add to this like notebook, so you can have sort of a reference of information that's where casually mentioned, like, oh, this person is the grandchild of this person, and you're like, okay, I gotta keep information on this, and they're like, okay, when I'm mapping this stuff out, where to put things and all that, and yeah, much like Return of the Obra Dinn, once you kind of get 3 people locked down, it'll stop and it'll highlight them, and that you got them right and all that, and then open things up for you to continue on. So where I'm at, I have 9 people locked down, and the lady that hires you sort of tells you that she'll return, and you'll essentially have like the next bit of major storytelling and maybe more information and evidence and such that is brought to your attention to use for whatever's next. So I'm at the point where I'm trying to get to 18 people confirmed, and they give you some helpful information of like, here's like the notable people from the family tree. So that gives you a list of names to start searching for. Um, and it's all pretty well done, and kind of an effective way to kind of build out this whole web of family drama and all that. Because there's people that potentially are blood relatives but don't take the name, and all that kind of stuff, and it just makes for a pretty interesting game and story. So that's been out on PC here since I think January. So I got it on sale in the last Steam sale, and I've been digging into it here and really enjoying it so far. So there's that. Also been playing some more MLB The Show 25. Not really doing too much in particular, but yeah, there's been some nice additions to the Diamond Dynasty stuff. More programs of things to work through, and so that's been fun to kind of see what they are adding, what kind of special players and all that they're adding and all that. So yeah, that's been fun, and also been playing some more Assassin's Creed Shadows, where I am just kind of doing a lot of the side stuff as I'm working towards some of the main quest stuff, but I'm still pretty early. But yeah, had a weird issue where I was trying to figure out how to get to this one vantage point to survey the landscape around, and it was particularly tricky because it was not just simply a case of just wandering up to it. It involved finding this like secret path that ends up getting you up there for that. So that was a bit tricky to find out. Otherwise, I was kind of just having a frustrating kind of Skyrim experience of trying to go up, climb up things, and it was denying me every chance it got, and ended up figuring out like, oh, this is why, because there's something it calls like a secret path that you kind of have to deal with. But yeah, that's been pretty much what I've been doing there. So how about you, Brandon? What have you been doing?
Well, as for me, one of my primary gaming things I've been doing is playing more Shadows of Doubt. And honestly, one of the things that I really admire about this game is that, remember, this whole game, every time you start a new city and everything, it's all procedurally generated. The whole thing, the cityscape, the names, the people in it, all of that stuff is procedurally generated by the program. And what's fascinating is the fact that on top of that, every case that you come in contact with, you are given all of these different avenues that you can use to solve that case. You're given all this equipment to help you, get fingerprints and photographs and names, stuff like that. You're given stuff like a code breaker that helps you, translate coded messages. And then when you have to like get into a building or whatever, you're given like all these options of how to get. Like sometimes you can just walk into the door, through the door. Sometimes the door is locked. You might have to pick the lock with something in order to get in. Other times you might have to like go through like an air duct or something. Sometimes you got to like negotiate with people to get them to let you into it when, nobody's looking. And you also always have to have like an escape route planned out because depending on how long you take in there, it is completely possible that at some point somebody will call the cops on you and you're going to need to find a way out, and to hide yourself so you don't end up getting, all shot to pieces. So yeah, this is one of those games where it's like I could probably play it forever. Also, it's just fun to like try and find ways to completely break the whole game because since it's procedurally generated, that means that although these all of these mechanics are pretty sophisticated, they are still all running all at once. So very easy to find ways to just completely bust the entire thing wide open. But on top of that, I'm also playing an old school classic from the 90s, a little game called Syndicate. Those of you who did not grow up in the 90s doing PC games don't know what Syndicate is. Syndicate was a game that came out from Bullfrog Productions. That was one of Peter Molyneux's companies back in the day. And essentially, it is a it's a cyberpunkish sort of real-time strategy and tactical game where you basically are the head of a random corporation. You're not really given a name or anything. And you essentially are in a world where basically corporations more or less run everything. And because of that, that means you can get away with a lot of shit. In the game, basically, you are, as the campaign goes on, you are given a few different types of missions. These include everything from rescue attempts, assassinating executives for a rival syndicate, infiltrating to get documents or whatever, targeted assassinations, theft. And then they have a thing called persuasion, which is basically where you capture an individual of importance or hordes of people or others and brainwash them to use them as cannon fodder. There is no way to be a good person in this game. You are a villain and people will die, and you will order people to die to better yourself. It is straight up just one of the first games that took the whole concept of the villain protagonist and just ran with it. And it is, for an old game, it is shockingly very elaborate and honestly a lot of fun. It's fun to consider, considering how old this game is, because it came out back in, like I said, it came out in 1993. All of the like NPCs and stuff that you come in contact with in this game, they all react pretty intelligently to stuff that happens. If they see you pull a gun, the crowd might just dash out of the way. The cops might show up and start shooting at you. Someone might try to run you down with their car. It's honestly kind of amazing just how elaborate this old game is. But either way, it's a lot of fun. So yeah, the Syndicate, old school from 1993. If you haven't played it and you want to play an old school tactical RTS game, give it a shot. And last but not least, there's another game that has been taking up the majority of my gaming time. I can't talk about it right now because I don't think, pretty sure the moratorium on the reviews and stuff doesn't end until either next week or the week after. But suffice it to say that I've actually been enjoying it quite a bit. But yeah, that is what I've been playing. So Dan Reb, what about you?
Yeah, couple games mainly. The first one I want to talk about is called Koira. This game was published by Don't Nod, came out early last week. And this was a game that I started to play during Steam Next Fest, or when I say started, I mean I played a demo. and it was about an hour long. You play as this like dark figure where he finds a dog, and then the dog, is someone that you eventually grow accustomed to. So you go through the forest and solve puzzles and things like that. It's an indie title, and the hour ended with the dog getting kidnapped. So I was like, okay, well, I have to play this game now. So I went ahead and requested a code, got it, and really enjoyed it. The game is about 4 hours long, and the cool thing about the full game was that even though the demo pretty much gave me an idea of what to expect, nothing was really repeated except for the very beginning, like 30 minutes or so. Like the dog still ends up getting kidnapped, but like it happens at a different point in the game, and it's really interesting seeing how that happens. So some of the puzzles are really just all about knowing what's in the environment. You can have the dog give you these musical notes that you can use on statues to open up more pathways. The dog has like a shiny nose that'll allow it to get rid of these foggy clouds that prohibit your movement and things like that. And yeah, it's very exploratory. If I could compare it to anything, it would probably be Chicory, except Chicory is just way more involved and more Zelda-like than this game. There also is some light combat involved. It would be delving into spoiler territory, but basically the protagonist you use all of a sudden has like this anger attack that'll get rid of hunters and other like dangerous animals across the way. But yeah, it's pretty solid. It's a nice 3 to 4 hours that I use as a palate cleanser because I've been playing a lot of big games and it felt good in that regard. My main complaint though is that there's no platinum trophy. There's 20 there's 20 trophies in this game, all of which they're all pretty easy to get. But normally with the games that I enjoyed this much, I try to sanctify my playtime with a platinum, and it just sucks that this doesn't have one. It's 2025. Like, come on, guys. But yeah, it's an indie. I'm sure it wasn't any sort of priority when they did it, so it is what it is there. Anyway, I've also jumped back into Assassin's Creed Shadows. I've had this game since before release. I've been playing it on and off during and after GDC and WonderCon, and yeah, like I'm definitely like in the thick of things now. I'm like 60% through the game according to the little tracker on the PS5, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. When I last talked about it, I mentioned that I played the game for over 15 hours and still didn't unlock Yasuke. And yeah, now I have them, and the gameplay has definitely opened up. For those of you not familiar, Assassin's Creed Shadows has two protagonists, one being Yasuke, the Black Samurai, if you will, and the other one being Naue, who is not really a princess, but she's definitely of some nobility with the various dynasties in Japan. And yeah, it's definitely been really, really solid so far. Naue is definitely the more Assassin's Creed-like character to use. She's quick, she's nimble. At the same time, you have the various skill trees that you can use to improve your skills with various weapons, as well as her job as an assassin. Whereas Yasuke is definitely more of a tank. He has a brutal assassination move where he can just use his naginata and sword to just behead people, and he's definitely more of a tank. It's funny because one of the common things with Assassin's Creed is climbing up to a waypoint and then jumping off the waypoint and ending up in a haystack, the leap of faith. And when you use Yasuke, he's not nimble, so he actually ends up hurting himself, and it's a moment of comedic timing there. You actually end up getting a trophy for doing that kind of thing, and yeah, it's pretty fun. Anyway. The main thing here is it's definitely Assassin's Creedy. There are a whole bunch of different groups for you to go ahead and be a hitman for, and at the same time, you have your main circle of people that you want to assassinate in order to move the story forward. I've committed so far about 25 hours into the game. I don't know how much further I am towards the end. I know I said that I'm about 60% through, but at the same time, everything you do takes up a small chunk of time, and it's one of those things where as you explore the map, you'll just be inundated with various other things to do that are off the beaten path. But the one thing that I'm not liking, which I understand is also very Ubisofty, is as opposed to something like Ghost of Tsushima, where you had like three different characters who you want to follow around and follow their story, and they were locked to certain parts of the game depending on what act you were in. It's sort of the case here as well, but because you have both Yasuke and Naoe and their different story paths, uh, you have this non-linear focus to it, where it's like it's hard to really understand what's happening in the story, especially if you're the kind of person who ends up trying to do the goals and objectives nearest to you rather than trying to focus on one separate thing. And it just feels convoluted as a result, even though it's not purposely trying to do that. At the same time, it's like you're not wasting your time either, because obviously with every side quest and thing you do, you earn money and skill points in order to level up, and it's fun in that regard. But if you're trying to really follow the story, it becomes a little haywire. That being said, the story is pretty solid. I mentioned it the last time I talked about it, but like the big complaint here for me is with the voice acting. When you're using Japanese voice acting, it's fantastic. I have nothing bad to say about it. But then when you use the English voice acting, it just sounds like a whole bunch of people were kidnapped and told to read in English, and like they can, but they don't read it very well. There has been like various comments from people, I think including you, Brandon, where they might have used AI for some of the voices, and I definitely wouldn't put that behind them, especially since this was developed during the SAG-AFTRA strike, and it's still going
Mm-hmm.
on. So,
Yep.
yeah, that's definitely a tough point there. But just from how much I've played this game so far, I've never been the biggest Assassin's Creed person, but because of that, I would say this is the best. Obviously, I haven't beaten it yet. I want to get to the ending. I've heard very mixed things about it, so I just want to get there for myself before I actually have a verdict. But I'm definitely really enjoying it so far. And yeah, like this will definitely tide my way over to um, Expedition 33 when that one comes. And yeah, that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so yeah, let's get to some news for the few bits we have here. First up, we have Game Pass stuff coming for the first half of this month, which is mostly for the next week or so. Things that are available now, we have here for Game Pass Ultimate, PC Game Pass, and Game Pass Standard, Borderlands 3 Ultimate Edition for console and PC. So while you await Borderlands 4, you can play some of 3 if you have not done so yet,
Mm-hmm.
and enjoy that here for the next 5 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Let's see. These next 3 are ones that are already on Game Pass, going to Game Pass Standard. So there's All You
Mm-hmm.
Need Is Help, Still Wakes the Deep, and Wargroove 2. So you can enjoy those games.
Mm-hmm.
Then coming up here for this week on April 8th, there's Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls Ultimate Evil Edition
Yep.
for console and PC on Game Pass Ultimate, PC Game Pass, and Game Pass Standard, which is the version of Diablo 3 that has all the expansion stuff in it and all the improvements and such they've added to that. I'd probably say this is better on console than PC,
Mm-hmm.
just for my taste on it. But yeah, that's one to check out, and one I like more than Diablo 4. So
Mm-hmm.
there's that. And then the new game here for the week, South of Midnight,
Mm-hmm.
on April 8th for PC and Xbox.
Yeah.
Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass, the first title from Compulsion Games under Microsoft
Mm-hmm.
when they acquired them nearly a decade ago.
Yep.
So yeah, this one's set and based on the kind of mythos of the Deep South.
Yep.
All that kind of
Based
stuff.
on got a bunch of figures that I grew up hearing about, like Two-Toed Tom. That's an old story down here in the South. There are stories about him that go from Louisiana all the way to Florida. There's also others like Hug and Molly. That's another one. Just pretty well-known Southern folklore figures.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one you can check out this week.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, for April 9th, Commando's Origins for PC and Xbox for Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's one of those strategy games. For that, from the original Commandos
Mm-hmm.
games. Kind of stealth RTS kind of games. So there's that. April 10th, there'll be Blueprints
Mm.
for Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass on PC and Xbox. This is also coming to PlayStation Plus Extra
Mm-hmm.
as well. This is a new puzzle game sorts that has a lot of neat ideas to it.
Yep.
Yeah, it mentions you're in this mysterious manor with shifting rooms, and so you got a lot of architectural puzzles and such to solve. So that looks pretty neat for
Mm-hmm.
that. And then let's see, for April 15th for Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass is Hunt Showdown 1896 for the PC.
Mm-hmm.
That is the extraction shooter that has been pretty popular on PC, so
Mm-hmm.
that's one you can check out. And some pretty neat stuff there for the week
Mm-hmm.
to check out. So there you go.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely excited for South of Midnight. That's a big one for me.
Yeah. So yeah, that'll be fun to check out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, South of Midnight is also the highlight for me. Blueprints also looks pretty cool. I've seen that off and on at GDC. I didn't get a chance to play it, but it's good to know that it's also available to anyone on Game Pass.
Mm.
Yep. So there you go for that stuff to check out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else we got here. Oh yeah, Monster Hunter Wilds has been out for just over a month now
Mm-hmm.
and has already reached and surpassed 10 million units sold,
Mm-hmm.
which is a record for Capcom in their
Mm.
first month, which is very impressive. Probably sold more in its first month than the vast majority of Resident Evil games.
Mm.
In case you need a comparison there.
Mm.
So yeah, that's really impressive for this game. It just shows how much this game kind of hit at the right time.
Oh yeah. And it also shows all the culture warrior guys is like saying, hey, they didn't make Monster Hunter Wild sexy enough. Well, they can stuff it because this is a 10 million seller.
Yeah. So yeah, they just had their first big title update to add a new monster as well as more stuff for the game. So they'll be continuing to work on it and have a new title update for the summer. So yeah, got some more stuff coming to this game. So
Mm.
looking forward to that.
Yeah, I definitely look forward to popping back into it whenever I have the time. I know I never end up doing it, but Monster Hunter World definitely deserves it.
Yeah.
Mm.
So there's that. Let's see. Let's start getting to some more industry news here. This was an interesting one. So in the wake of the Double Fine Adventure Kickstarter back in 2012, I guess,
Mm.
doing incredibly well. A number of other adventure game properties and developers kind of came to the platform to try to make their um, spiritual successors to games they made before, all that kind of stuff. And particularly one of them here was from developers Scott Murphy and Mark Crow, who made the classic Space Quest series
Mm-hmm.
for Sierra. They're making a new game called Space Venture. Did pretty well, I believe. The number here, yeah, $500,000 from nearly 11,000 backers.
Mm.
Surpassed their targets right near the end.
Mm.
That was in June 2012. Uh, weirdly enough, said that it would be done by February 2013, but they did not get anywhere close to that.
Mm.
The story here goes that, kind of continually got delayed over and over again, um, setting up new dates, things like that, saying they were, close, but it's going to take some more time and all that. And yeah, seemingly just delaying it constantly, getting to the point of, um, I think around when the pandemic hit, they announced that they were doing beta testing and sort of finally looking like they were going to get near the end. Started beta testing in August 2012. By February 2021, they we're done with the beta. Bugs were worked out. Supposedly
Mm-hmm.
ready to release. Just had to fix their save load system. That seemed to be the one big issue they had.
Yep.
But then by the time it was supposed to launch in November, it was still not fixed. They had to delay it. You could not fix this issue within Unity, claiming the next update will be the one where we know when it's going to be ready to go. It's July 25th, 2022, very close to finishing. But then in August, said no, it would be September 16th. Then that passed, just continually doing this. People probably at this point, pretty much like, there's no way this game is going to be finished or as good as they thought it would be back, decade earlier.
Yep.
But then it did finally come out pretty recently. Here, I'm trying to see what specific date it was. April 1st. Oh, conveniently releasing on April 1st. Okay. $15, or still in early access, or released as an early access game on Steam. So people could check it out. And yeah, it's very bad, I guess, from what the people here are saying. Yeah, it's a PC game with no settings at all. You don't have any options for anything. Yeah, it runs only in 1080p. Beyond, hitting Alt Enter to put it into a window. There's no way to change it from full screen. Pressing Escape brings up just the quit window. That goes to the desktop, not to the main menus. Yeah, the cutscene's just very bad. The game looks bad. They describe like a PC port of a 2002 PS2 game. And that save issue still there. Instead, if you fail, you just reload the last start of the chapter. You can't do any like quick save, quick load, anything. So you end up having to repeat all the things you're doing, all that kind of stuff, over and over again if you are failing the things it's asking you to do. And yeah, it's just a hugely terrible game. And kind of a shame for a game that people were excited at one point.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we get a chance to have, a new Space Quest-esque adventure game that for the fans that really loved it. And just seems like a lot of wasted time and money, unfortunately, from the devs that some of the devs that made that game, those games originally. And yeah, just a long story of futility, essentially, from people that wanted to see a new thing similar to what they liked in the past. So yeah, there you go. There's more in that story if you want to read it. More details on the various foibles and all that pop up here and there. But yeah, an interesting failure on Kickstarter, but more of a success than you would have expected. It actually released, but nobody should be buying this.
No.
The state it's in, so that's the unfortunate thing. So there. So, but speaking of unfortunate news, we have some layoffs here. Eidos Montreal has laid off 75 developers as what they call a mandate has come to an end. They announced this in a LinkedIn post that is entirely in French, so it can be hard to, or not entirely in French. They translated it, but it's also in Montreal, so it's hard to tell. As they say, as one of our mandates is coming to an end, they're laying off up to 75 valuable members, which I'm not sure what the mandate means entirely. Is it sort of a return to office sort of mandate that they are making, and there's people that cannot accommodate that? Or is it some project that's ending? It's not really clear at all for this kind of thing, unfortunately. But in the end, it seems like a bunch of people are going to be let go, and it doesn't seem like they've lost any. Maybe they have some secret projects that have fallen through, but they still seem to be working on Fable with the Microsoft team that's working on that. But yeah, no idea what to make of this. But yeah, sad to see more people getting laid off here, because they, in in the process lost. I want to say laid off people back when they were first transitioning to being owned by Embracer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just kind of a sad news there.
Yeah, very sad.
Yeah, yeah. And then we got Ubisoft news from Ubisoft Leamington, a team that had been mostly laid off back in January.
Mm-hmm.
The vast majority of their people were caught up in those layoffs, and it seems like they've just shut the studio down fully. And yeah, I don't know if that means the rest of the team.
Mm.
Yeah, it just says the remaining team will still be seen around local industry events in Leamington Spa.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, that's also sad news there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the team was formerly known as Freestyle Games and was the DJ Heroes developer
Mm-hmm.
before Ubisoft acquired them, and they kind of just were a support studio for other projects.
Yeah.
And we're supposedly working on an unannounced new IP before that all getting canceled and them getting shut down. So
Mm-hmm.
there you go on that front. And then the last one we have here is a studio called Playside Studios. Supposedly the largest studio in Australia has been experiencing layoffs and a restructuring
Mm-hmm.
that will save them some money, but yeah, they say the restructure itself will cost initially an additional $954,000 or about 1.5 million Australian, but will also be laying off an unknown number of people in the process as part of that.
Mm.
And they are a studio that works on a bunch of stuff. They work on support studio stuff as well as projects themselves. I remember just looking at their website to see what they had on here. They're currently working on Mouse PI for Hire. Yeah, they worked on Age of Darkness, uh, Warcraft 3 Reforged, Kill Knight, which released fairly recently,
Yep.
among other things. And yeah, just kind of one of those studios that just does a lot of work. Some where they're the sole developer, and others where they're not.
Mm.
So yeah, a shame there, but
Yeah.
Australia's not been a great place for game development in the last like decade. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of the bigger studios have ended up shutting down, and many others having to just deal with staying small if they can, and uh, hoping for some big huge hit that never seems to come.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of just end up working until they just run out of money. So
Mm.
that's another sad story there.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, I mean, it's just kind of the story of the industry right now.
Yeah,
Yeah. I kind of wonder what the mandate was from iOS Montreal. It's probably lame, but yeah, I mean, we report like 2 or 3 days a week, so it's I'm numb at this point. Um, it is what it is, you know. Obviously, as you mentioned, Australia hasn't been a great place, but yeah, I'd argue nowhere is. So it's just tough, and I hope these people somehow land on their feet.
yeah. So yeah, there's that. Do have some bright news.
Yeah, actually.
The developers, QA devs at ZeniMax, who formed the union. I'm trying to see what the full name is here. ZeniMax Workers United (CWA)
Mm.
formed that back in 2023 after the CWA cut a deal with Microsoft to support its bid to acquire Activision Blizzard in exchange for the tech giant supposedly remaining neutral on unionization within the company.
Mm.
So that's team formed, and they have had a time trying to get a new deal with Microsoft, and sort of in the process announced that their members voted 94% in favor of authorizing a strike should they
Mm-hmm.
continue to have issues with negotiations. Um, but yeah, they have people here saying, we've had to continuously fight for what should be bare minimum. Person, a tester on Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Among that, and yeah, it seems like Microsoft kind of just being a shitty negotiator here. As this other statement here, underpayment and costly RTO initiatives have caused many of us to put our lives on pause because our income does not match even the rising cost of living in the cities where ZeniMax insists we live and work to maintain employment. None of us wishes it had come to this, but if Microsoft and ZeniMax continue to demonstrate at the bargaining table that they're unwilling to pay us fair wages for the value of our labor provides to our games, we'll be showing them just how valuable our labor is. So yeah, wish them the best of luck in this. Yeah, Microsoft certainly has plenty of money to pay these people proper wages and benefits and all that, and they certainly don't seem to care too much. Not when they can keep working with AI and helping out with what's going on in Israel right now and all that. So
yeah,
fun time to be associated with those companies. So yeah,
all right.
There you go. We'll have to see if this turns out well, or if there'll be a strike at Microsoft at some point. But yeah.
Yep, probably.
Yeah. But yeah, let's get to the big news of the day or the week. It was the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. As we wanted to see like what sort of cost this thing would have, when it would be out, what sort of games would be happening, would be at launch, sort of how they were going to handle potential upgrades and such.
Yep.
All that kind of stuff. And yeah, the Direct was about an hour long. Pretty interesting Direct all told, but had definitely a lot of interesting stuff going on.
Oh yeah.
I would say it's probably their worst Direct to date for just working, because the audio sync was broken from the start.
Yeah, I know people. I've watched a bunch of like reaction vids of people watching it, and like pretty much all of them bring up the audio syncing basically going kind of off just like a few seconds in. So
yeah, I actually live reacted to it. I actually did not see any issues until they reached that camping game, and then from there, like the video and the sync was off key. But like it wasn't at the beginning, at least not for me.
Yeah, I think it was probably depending on what stream you were watching. I think the UK Nintendo's, the UK Nintendo stream was supposedly working fine, but I was watching the Nintendo America stream, and it was definitely off from the front, but you just probably didn't notice it unless you were once you got to the point they showed humans talking, and it was like I was like, is this delayed because it's some weird stream thing? Like, what's going on? And then you get to the point where you have actual, Westerners speaking English, and it's like, all right, this is messed up, and it's not changing on Twitch or anything. Kind of had to wait for it all to be over to watch a full uninterrupted stream that would be fixed. And yeah, and yeah, they got to one of these games. I think it's called Survival Kids. That was where it's stopped at a certain point, and then just the audio kept going, and so there's probably at least 3 games I think that got shortchanged in all this, because at a certain point they like reset the video to a few minutes earlier, and then kind of scrubbed through up ahead until it eventually caught up. But by that point, you missed, I think, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, Enter the Gungeon 2, most of Cyberpunk, and obviously the rest of the Survival Kids stream trailer as well. And so it's like, all right, here's 3 of your partners, one of which is making an exclusive game for you that you've shortchanged in this. I doubt many people are going to care that much to rewatch it, the fixed version. But yeah, just kind of a weird issue that just like, yeah, this is probably their worst Direct, because I don't recall this kind of issue happening before or anything like this. So there was that. But yeah, I've got a link to a bunch of pages on Nintendo's website, because they give us a date but no prices. during the stream, and that was probably for pretty obvious reasons, in that the prices would differ pretty rapidly depending on what country you're in, and it was probably better to let that just be a thing you would find out afterwards whenever news of pre-orders and such were going on. But yeah, they announced a launch date of June 5th. You can go on the My Nintendo website and register interest for one of the two main bundles, or two main versions. There's the base bundle; it's $4.49 here in the U.S. Or the Mario Kart World bundle for $4.99.
Yeah,
I will tell you that those prices are now subject to change, but you can.
We will tell you why later, but
yeah, the you can register interest here to potentially pre-order, which I end up doing just as a backup option. And that basically uses your Nintendo account. That they'll do invitations on May 8th. That gives you 72 hours to make a purchase. And they have requirements for having a Nintendo Switch Online membership that you've had for a minimum of 12 months. Opted in to share gameplay data and have at least 50 hours of total gameplay hours in on that Switch. And yeah, there's other information here. I would bet this is not going to be something that's going to guarantee release day delivery. So I don't order much from the My Nintendo store to know like how well their shipping is compared to the main retailers people would order from. I was hoping to get in at Best Buy because they announced afterwards like, oh, it'll be on the 9th here, April 9th for pre-orders. And we'll tell you that's not happening. We'll tell you more about that later, but for now, let's talk about what new features and OS stuff and tech stuff that's going on here. The big thing they focused on early on was game chat, which is essentially like their Discord style party video voice chat thing. Where, it even has very similar, like, if you're in a chat like we are on Discord, you can click on the voice channel and you see the similar kind of widescreen colored boxes of the different people in it. And I think the main difference is that your like avatar will bounce as you're talking. But it seems to support up to 12 people. It requires Nintendo Switch Online after they're doing like a trial run where it'll be free to use until March 31st of 2026. From then on, you'll need a Nintendo Switch Online membership to use it. They're very much promoting this as like a thing that, if you're playing games together, you can have the feeds of everybody show up there. It'll obviously run at much worse frame rates and image quality because it's, it doesn't matter how good that looks. You don't really need it. But you can focus on it if you're like, oh, we're trying to meet up at this part of the game and we need to help somebody to get over there. You can kind of pull up their feed and say like, hey, you need to go over this way, do that kind of stuff. Or you can all play different games. It doesn't really matter. For that, they do have a camera, a Nintendo Switch 2 camera, as a part of their offerings that you can use for this. But I'll tell you that is not required. They support a variety of USB-C cameras. You need to have a USB-C port or plug into this. And that will also allow you to essentially superimpose yourself over your footage that you're sending. And if you're wondering what that C button was, that's what this is for. It's for chat. So that's a thing that is a big part of this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a neat addition, though. There's a lot of people be like, oh, this is 10-year-old stuff, and it's like, I don't think any of these other ones really allow you to share video in this way.
Yeah, also, like, that's Nintendo's whole, like, idiom. They take old technology and they improve upon it. That's just sort of what they do. That's been sort of their whole MO since the Famicom.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't think it really matters. It's a means of offering party chats in a way that makes some sense.
Yeah. Though you probably noticed all that lag as well from the we're getting to like the camera and everything. So go ahead and go to that.
Yeah, the camera itself um, is basically a webcam on a big stick,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. It seems pretty good for what it looks like
Mm-hmm.
it's doing, and since they're basing this machine on NVIDIA tech, it uses the same kind of NVIDIA broadcast tools that they have for people on PC that will, you know, remove your background and all that and make you stand out on your footage and all that. And yeah, it's a pretty interesting uh, addition here, though. Obviously, it's going to be fun to see how people take advantage of that because Nintendo
Yeah.
will always make their decisions based on child safety and all that. But this one, um, they do have plenty of parental controls for limiting who you can chat with, your kids
Mm-hmm.
can chat with, and all that. So you
Yeah.
should be able to manage that stuff pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm betting there's going to be plenty of times where it's people are going to have stories like the original Uno game for XBLA,
Mm-hmm.
where people would be doing drugs and all that on camera while they're playing it,
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of fun stuff. And yeah, I'm sure we're going to have some good fun stories about that stuff. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, that was the first of the accessories we got to see. What's the price on that they have right now? $50,
Mm-hmm.
which is a lot.
Yeah.
Um, it's not that much for what a webcam, a decent webcam costs. That's probably right around where you would expect for that kind of thing. But
Yeah,
for one that you're primarily just going to use on a Switch 2, that's a lot.
yeah. I mean, Brandon was talking about the quality of the streams on the bottom, which definitely was a choice. You know, like we could see that it looked pretty bad, but then also when you think about it, a $50 camera, there's a reason why it's $50. You know, a lot of like
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote good ones are at least $200. So that's definitely a choice.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. Let's see. They talked about Game Share, which is their other new big feature, which is essentially kind of like what the download stuff on the DS and uh, Wii that you could use to play games with other people without everybody having to have a copy of the game for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
This seems the thing you may not have gotten from that is it seems like it's a streaming thing
Yep.
versus downloading a chunk of data and having everybody wait on the download for that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so yeah, you can play games with people for that. Yeah, and you have to have a Switch 2 to do this. It's not being they're supporting Switch 1 games, but you have to have a Switch 2 to share to other people. They have a chart here. It's basically like Switch 2 can share the games locally, but a Switch 1 or Switch 2 can be on the receiving end to play with the other person
Mm-hmm.
for that. So, and it has to be with specific games, which
Yep.
is like how that stuff worked in the past.
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned like see it also works with game chat, so you can chat with people while doing all this through the internet,
Mm-hmm.
which is similar to the what do they call it? I think it's Play Share on PlayStation, where you can essentially stream a game to somebody and they can act as the second player, essentially playing like they are playing on a couch with you, but doing it over the internet.
Mm-hmm.
That's a similar kind of thing you can do here for that. So yeah, it has to be supported by specific games.
Mm-hmm.
And so the list here for that stuff is, let's see, Super Mario Party Jamboree,
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo Switch 2 edition for that. So that's one that you can share locally, but not through game chat. The Big Brain Academy, Brain versus Brain, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury,
Mm-hmm.
Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, and Super Mario Odyssey all support both the share locally and share online versus via game chat. So I don't remember Super Mario Odyssey having anything. multiplayer-ish. Maybe it's little mini game stuff, or maybe it's the co-op, I guess, or one person's the hat kind of thing that I remember people not being happy about as like a play with your kids kind of thing.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's what that is. But so there's that. It's a neat feature add to it. And then let me see. We got tech specs. Nothing really too complicated to add here. It is a 7.9-inch screen. That's I think they said it's the same thickness as the original Switch, but bigger. This weighs about a pound for the Switch 2. Yeah, slightly more with Joy-Con 2s attached. 1080p screen. This supports HDR. Has VRR support of up to 120 frames per second. So you can play 1080p 120 frames per second games. Has 3D audio support and a built-in mic, so that makes your multiplayer stuff a bit easier to do. And much like with the NVIDIA broadcast stuff, it has noise canceling to be able to cancel out excess audio, which they showed in a pretty funny bit where someone's talking and somebody's like, "Oh, I'm going to start vacuuming right behind this person is trying to talk to their friends. Just fuck them." All this shit like a parent would do. Like, get off the games. I'm going to vacuum, drown you out. And it didn't work. It has Wi-Fi 6 support, Bluetooth, all that stuff. But yeah, when you hook it up to a TV through the dock, you can get 4K at 60 FPS on that. If you choose lower resolutions, 1440p or 1080p, you can do 120 FPS through that if you have the TV that supports that, as well as HDR support if your TV allows that as well. I'm trying to see what else they have here. 2 USB-C ports, one on the top and one on the bottom. So if you're using it in tabletop mode, you can use the one on top to charge it. Now, doesn't necessarily have to get like a special dock or holder or something to allow that. So that's a neat little change. Let's see. Still has an audio jack on it, so you can plug in your headphones directly if you have a wired headset. Both Switch 1 and Switch 2 games can be inserted. And the big change they're also making is that they are not supporting micro SD for game storage on here. It's micro SD Express, which is the much like using NVMe SSD drives for the Xbox and PlayStation. This is about speed, making sure it's able to load very fast for this stuff. So Express is the specific new version of micro SDs that have a much faster speed for transferring data and all that for what you need to have these games that can run at higher resolutions and all that. So that's definitely needed here and should hopefully make the OS and all that run a lot better. And yeah, speaking of that, you have 256 gigabits of internal storage now, which is a huge increase from 32 on the regular Switch, which was ridiculous still for that time. So now you'll be able to download more games on the device directly and have to manage that a lot less than you on a Switch. So that's good. And because the device is bigger itself, the Joy-Con 2 buttons and sticks and all that are much bigger. So you'll be able to deal with those things a lot more reasonably for people with big hands and all that. As well as they, showed off more of the mouse supports for the Joy-Cons and how that works. And so that's part of why they extended some of the shoulder buttons are kind of more extended in their size, so that they're better reachable when you're using them as mice, kind of thing. So, that's largely what that is all about. So, pretty neat to see. The big thing you lose in the Joy-Cons is the IR port that got used for like 2 or 3 games, I think. So that is gone, which we'll bring up some issues a little bit later, but yeah, that's pretty interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, they mentioned that the battery life for this, people have been freaking out about this. It's the approximate they have here is 2 to 6.5 hours, which is roughly what the Switch was.
Yep.
I think they maybe quoted like 2.5 to 6, something like that for the original Switch, which is not that big of a difference. Because again, if you're getting 2 hours, you're playing, a really intense game, and like then it was Breath of the Wild, something like that's where the game that could barely run on a Switch, but yeah, that's just kind of what you're going to expect out of this stuff at this point. So there's that. Yeah, they announced a new Pro controller that will have the C button on there for initiating the chat and all that. It's $79.99, $80 for that thing. It has an audio jack on it, as well as 2 programmable buttons on the back around the handles called GL and GR. As we're going to continue to get the very silly, we can't just do L1 and L2 kind of thing. We have to go GL and GR. I assume grip left and grip right. Those are remappable, so that's some nice stuff there for features. So that'll be a thing. I believe Switch One accessories are compatible with the Switch 2. So if you have a Pro controller from Switch One, you can still use it here. And yeah, you can kind of physically tell the difference is that the top part of it is white, with the rest of the Switch being black. The Pro controller being black, kind of looking like more of an Xbox controller where they have weird multicolor stuff here. So there's that. That's $80. Now I'm looking at the accessories. There's a charging grip that is $35. I believe there's a version of that doesn't charge it. That comes with the Switch 2. Straps are $13. You can get a Joy-Con 2 wheel set of 2 for $20. If you want to keep playing your Mario Karts like that, that's the way it goes. And they're color coded blue and orange. What do you call that other color? It's like an orangish color. That's the thing you can do. I guess they're calling it light red. I'd say maybe orange. I don't know. Orange red. Yeah, the Switch 2 camera is $50. The dock set, which includes the AC adapter and a USB-C charging cable, is $110. They have a Switch 2 carrying case and screen protector for $35. The all-in-one carrying case that includes enough room for the dock and the Switch 2 and all that stuff. That's $80. It's basically a big kind of rectangular box there. If you just need another AC adapter, there's $30 for that. That also comes with I think it comes with a cable. Yeah, it does. And so that's kind of your accessory list there of stuff.
Yeah.
So if you want to spend a ton of money, also, as you might expect, all the third parties have their own versions ready to go.
Yep.
Because they've been the primary ones leaking a bunch of stuff about this thing. So there's your accessories. Now we can talk about games, because there's a lot of games stuff going on.
Oh
here.
yeah, a lot of games, a lot of announcements, a lot of re-releases or updates or remasters or whatever you really want to call them.
So much so they had to stop and be like, "There's 3 types of Switch games on the Switch 2. There's the Switch 2 games.
Yeah, the games that are specifically made for the Switch 2.
Yeah, there's backwards compatible Switch games.
So old Switch games that can also be played on the new Switch version, the Switch 2.
And then Switch 2 Edition games.
Which are basically the old Switch games that have been updated with graphical updates and, on occasion, some new content.
Yeah, basically the paid updates.
Yep.
So they have announced a number of games. The big one that they kind of hilariously focused on was Super Mario Party Jamboree. Which they're adding a new expansion called Jamboree TV.
Yep.
Which is, let's say, what if you added connect to the game, essentially.
Yeah, more or less.
They added this Jamboree TV mode that uses the camera. You have mini games based on that. We're just adding your picture-in-picture feed to the game as you're playing.
Also uses the microphone as well.
Yeah, the microphone and the Joy-Cons as mice as well for games. So you'll have all that being interconnected into the mini games and such. Yeah, they mention it's a separate mode, Jamboree TV. So I don't think it's added into the main party stuff, but maybe it will be. They do mention, funny enough, in these like descriptions, like, oh, this supports 1440p resolution in TV mode and full HD in tabletop mode and handheld mode, as well as visually enhanced with improved frame rate and all that. So yeah, it makes me wonder sort of how this stuff all works, because they do mention like, oh, it adds all this stuff to the Nintendo Switch game. And it's like, is this going to be a separate launcher for the game? Is it going to be like PlayStation, where you have a PS4 and a PS5 game that you can launch separately? And there the benefit is you get potentially like 2 platinums you can earn, that kind of stuff, or maybe the games run a bit differently, so there might be benefits to playing either one. Or it'd be like the Xbox, where it's like you're on the Switch 2, so it'll just automatically make sure you're playing the Switch 2 version. And if you wanted to play the old version, well, screw you. You should have a Switch 1 around to play it there. So yeah, we don't have prices on a lot of this stuff. I think the retailer listings are going up, and that are suggesting some of these are $80 versions of the game. These upgrades may be $10 or $20, depending on what the final price is. But the Nintendo site doesn't have prices for a lot of these games. So
yeah. So honestly, when you hear anything about prices, just be realizing, at least for the time being, these are all subject to change.
Yeah, there's only 2 games they gave prices for on this.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about those as we get to them, because they are part of the big shock here. But other games getting upgrades. There's The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. That'll be there at launch. Because Super Mario Party Jamboree is when that's not launch. That is July 24th for that. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are launch titles. Breath of the Wild gets support for the Nintendo Switch app. That's has weird support for like 3 games. Is going to have Breath of the Wild support now. It has like a Zelda Notes thing that lets you see like a map that can be annotated by a voice, like a GPS voice, kind of telling you where to go, kind of stuff, as well as you can record notes there. Unlike you couldn't do that with the phone anyway. But whatever. It'll improve frame rate and resolution, faster load times, and HDR support, so it'll just look a lot better and a lot less janky, like it has done from launch. It just kind of run weirdly. And Tears of the Kingdom will also get those same things: faster load times, improved frame rate and resolution, HDR support, and support for that Zelda Nopes, what they call game-specific service via Nintendo Switch app. There you go for that. Other stuff coming later on. There's Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which is getting an expansion called Star-Crossed World. That might be a $20 expansion. That's new chunk of story, so that seems a bit more reasonable. I don't know. Also, they're enhancing the visuals and improved frame rates on that. That's August 28th. And yeah, they mentioned that Pokemon Legends ZA will have a Nintendo Switch 2 edition that improves frame rates and performance. So we'll see how that one looks. But people have been very critical of the Pokemon games on the Switch, and now they'll have a chance to buy a version that will run better. And then Metroid Prime 4 Beyond was also kind of wild when they announced this stuff. It was like, oh, you'll have 2 display modes now on the Switch 2. You have quality mode that runs at 60 FPS and 4K resolution on TV, or 1080p while in handheld mode, and performance mode that runs at 120 frames per second in 1080p on TV mode, or 720p in handheld mode. HDR supports enhanced resolution, textures, and load times. It also supports the mouse controls using the Joy-Con 2 controllers. Those two games still do not have dates, so those are just 2025. So we don't know any more about that. But I think those are the only ones that are detailed on this page. There's a few others that are listed in the list of games here because a number of third parties are doing upgrades and such. So that's the kind of thing we're gonna have to find out more about is like how much the DLC upgrade essentially is going to cost for this stuff. Because that stuff just has not really been revealed yet. But yeah, I assume people have been fine for the most part with the way PlayStation has done $10 upgrades for a lot of these games, and they've been focusing on usually adding more content to it to make it a more reasonable cost. And the notion that some of these might be $20 is an interesting choice and a very Nintendo choice. So we'll see how that goes. We do have games getting free updates from Nintendo, particularly mentioning that they will potentially improve performance or add support for features such as game share in select games. The content of these updates may depend on the game, differ depending on the game. Obviously, they have not added any extra details on this stuff. But these seem more likely that they're going to unlock frame rates and such. So there's that. But yeah, we have ARMS, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, Super Mario Odyssey, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, and Echoes of Wisdom, which is much needed because those games also did not run super well. Game Builder Garage, which I'm surprised Nintendo remembers that game exists because they haven't done much with that. New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and Big Brain Academy Brain versus Brain. So Pokemon Scarlet and Violet definitely getting those updates for people that have been complaining about that. So that should run better. May not look better, but we'll see what these end up entailing in the final release of these updates. But for now, that's kind of what you're expecting there. And
yeah.
They also added a page for Switch 2 compatibility for Switch 1 games. Basically suggesting that the vast majority of games are going to play just fine. There's one that will not be playable at all on the Switch 2. It is a Labo game, Nintendo Labo Toy-Con 04 VR kit. Because the Switch 2 console cannot be inserted into a Toy-Con VR goggles accessory, so it cannot be played at all. They have PDFs of other games with startup issues and such, and others that are playable but have some in-game compatibility issues. You can see details on that if you want, but that's kind of fun that Nintendo has PDFs they want you to check out if you want to know more about this. But I assume that stuff will improve over time. But then they also mentioned here that there are games that require a Switch 1 Joy-Con to play. So if you want to play Ring Fit Adventure on your Switch 2, you will need to have Joy-Cons from the Switch 1 to make that work, because they mentioned Joy-Con 2 can't be attached to the Ring-Con accessory that's included with Ring Fit Adventures, but you can play it by having a regular Joy-Con to attach to the Ring-Con. And the Joy-Con 2 does not fit in the leg strap, which I think also fits with Nintendo Switch Sports, has a similar thing there. Let's see. 1-2 Switch, similar, doesn't have an IR motion camera. So that's one that you have to use a Joy-Con's Nintendo Switch Joy-Con R. Make sure the right one for that. So there's like a handful of games here. Labo is featured heavily. The other three kits also have limitations like that. WarioWare Move It has requirements for that Joy-Con. So you may still want to keep a pair of Joy-Cons around for this. Which is expensive, because considering those are, I think, $80 for the pair.
Yep.
So yeah, if you've invested in extra pairs, then congratulations to you. If you're hoping to trade in your Switch to pay for a Switch 2, for you.
Yep.
Basically, Nintendo's ploy here. I would just keep that Switch 2 or Switch 1 and give it to somebody and tell them you're not getting Joy-Cons, so pay for your own Joy-Cons.
Mm.
Let's see, what else do they have? They have pages here on the game key card, which is a new type of game, which is essentially for those games that do not have the full game on the cart, that required you to download them. As a so it requires you to download the full game to your system through the internet, which people have run wild with all this stuff, thinking that pretty sure it doesn't do this. Like, oh, they're gonna lock it to the Switch you download it to, and it's like, I don't think that's the case. I think it's basically a version of the Switch 2 carts that just requires you to download the thing for the various games that are not going to fit on the carts themselves, which I think essentially the max for the default carts are 64 gigs, so games that are bigger than that. And there's a number of these games on the list that probably will be bigger than that, but we'll see. So there's that. If you want to learn more about that, you can. That's the thing. But and the last one is Nintendo Switch Online Plus Expansion Pack. We'll be getting new stuff as part of the Nintendo Switch 2's launch.
Mm-hmm.
Though if you just have the regular membership, you'll still have all the same stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
But Plus Expansion Pack will be getting GameCube titles.
Yep.
They mentioned 3 of those for the launch. This is how you're going to get The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker on a Switch device, Switch 2 device specifically. So all those rumors of Wind Waker HD getting a port to the Switch seems like that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
At least not at the moment. Maybe they'll find a means for charging people for it again.
Mm-hmm.
F-Zero GX will be part of that. So that being one of the hardest to get Switch games physically, because it was not produced very many copies and just became rare pretty quickly. And then one of the biggest third-party games on the GameCube, Soul Calibur 2, with Link as part of the playable cast. So those 3 will be there.
Yep.
I think the other link I have for this has the rest of the games that were announced.
Mm-hmm.
Chibi Robo Plug Into Adventure,
Mm-hmm.
Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. That's another really expensive GameCube game.
Oh yeah, it cost a lot to get a hold of it. Mostly because it was kind of a limited release.
Yeah.
They didn't actually put out like a lot of copies of it.
Fire Emblem didn't sell well then.
Not then. It was still very, very, very niche. It wouldn't be until like Fire Emblem Awakening that people were like, "Oh, this is a thing that exists," and not some weird spinoff of Smash Brothers.
Yeah, we need waifus in this game to really enjoy it.
And well, Intelligent Systems listened.
Yeah. Let's see. There's Luigi's Mansion.
Yep. Classic.
Pokemon Coliseum.
Also classic.
Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness.
Also classic.
Super Mario Strikers. And
Cult hit.
Super Mario Sunshine. So you have a second way to play that if you did not get the trilogy thing.
Yeah.
They also support remapping of controllers stuff.
Yep.
They're also selling a dedicated wireless controller for I think Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
To buy that will be available at launch. I don't know if you're going to be able to pre-order it, but we'll see. So yeah, they're doing some extra stuff there, as well as 2 of the upgrade packs for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom will be available on Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack. Sort of like the way they offered the Animal Crossing expansion and the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe track expansion as part of that. They'll be doing that here for the Switch 2. You can save a little bit of money there for whatever those are going to cost, but yeah, this looks pretty neat. For additions, as imagine GameCube is Switch 2 exclusive because the storage size for those games are much higher than N64 games and all that. So having more pure space on the hard drive, the internal drive from the start probably makes this much more feasible than on a Switch 1. There'll probably still be plenty of feasible, but these games are probably a gig or so each. So initially, you're gonna for all those games there, probably at least 10 to 16 gigs total, and that's gonna be tougher on a regular Switch. But yeah, that's all your details on stuff. Before we get to the games themselves, because we'll talk about here the launch lineup as they've announced. There's Arcade Archives 2 Ridge Racer. Because Hamster has been releasing the Arcade Archives games for a while. And then they announced they're doing an Arcade Archives 2, which will have new games on them, like more recent games. And this is part of that, the arcade version of Ridge Racer, which was a hugely popular game. So that's neat. That seems to be just Switch 2, I think, for Arcade Archives at the moment. We'll have to see if that. I assume that'll come to the other consoles at some point, but I imagine they're getting a kickback to be on the Switch 2 for now.
Yep.
So there you go. That'll be your big arcade game there. We got Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster. That's a Switch 2 exclusive.
There's one that's definitely got my interest. I really wanted to play the OG Bravely Default, but the I'd already sold my DS and everything by the time that game came out. So
yeah, interesting thing that I've seen people talk about is that the like quality of life feature where you could turn the rate of random battles in the original game is not there. So you could essentially turn them off if you want to just actually get to the place you're trying to go to without any interruptions. In the original game you could do that, but here seems like it's not going to be a thing, or it'll probably have like specific settings for like all or nothing kind of thing, which is annoying for a game like this, especially one that had that built in to the whole thing. But otherwise it's very Final Fantasy adjacent kind of thing. As you're playing as like adjacent to like the Warrior of Light kind of storylines of the original games. So that's one to check out. That'll be at launch. Again, I don't know what the price is for that. It might be $40 for that. I'm not sure. But let's see. For ports, we got Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition. To be able to play a version of that may run well, may not. I don't know. It looked all right in the trailer, but
yep,
that's going to be $70. It seems like.
Yeah. I mean, but maybe it'll do all right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the game is not in the condition that it was when it was originally shipped, so it could be better. Honestly, I don't know. I'm just gonna have to see.
But that'll be a fun one for people to check out. Seems like you can also use mouse control support there, or gyroscope. So some options there. Let's see. Deltarune will be out for this will be for PlayStation, Switch 2, and PC. This will be Deltarune chapters 1 through 4. It'll be a paid thing. Not sure what the price is for it, but the first 2 chapters are free on PlayStation and Switch and PC. Okay, it'll be $25 for the whole package. So definitely grab the free stuff for now.
This one's interesting. I mean, obviously, a huge Toby Fox fan, but the other thing is that neither 3 or 4 are out yet. So I don't know whether this will just be 3 when it comes out, or whether we'll have both. And if it's both, then great. Huge package.
Yeah, it should be all 4.
But if it's just 3, then I'm also fine with that. So
yeah, it's all 4 chapters. Which Toby said there's also a 5th chapter on the way. I don't know if that's going to be DLC or whatever. We'll see. But yeah, Toby Fox has a good rapport with Nintendo, is particularly Sakurai. He's a huge fan and friend with. As Toby Fox has done music work for Nintendo and all that, so it's like a fun thing there. Got Fast Fusion, the new game from what's his team's name? Shinen. they've done essentially like F-Zero-esque games for the last few Nintendo consoles. So
Yep.
this is a new one of theirs for that. So that's one you can check out. Fortnite will be there as expected. So if you need a free game after the console being so expensive, that's one you can check out.
Mm-hmm.
It'll actually run probably pretty well, considering the Switch version was pretty poor, at least frame rate wise. Then yeah, we got a nice little surprise of Hitman World of Assassination Signature Edition, which I believe if you get on the Switch, you get Mario and Luigi costumes. There'll be a big red suit and green suit, which people noted like, oh, you can kill people as Luigi. And all that's fun tie into Luigi Mangione and all that. To do that in this game on a Nintendo platform, so great. But yeah, I believe this includes all the content and all that, so that's a great game. A lot of stuff in there. Well worth checking out if you have not done so, and you won't need cloud streaming to enjoy like on the original Switch. So that's a nice bonus there. Hogwarts Legacy will be on here. So it'll run probably a lot better than the Switch version did.
Definitely.
So there you go for that. Let's see. Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess will be on here, which I believe will add some extra content as well that will be coming to all the versions. Yeah, they're calling Otherworldly Adventure or Otherworldly Venture. Will be introduced with this release that will be also coming to the other platforms. But you can also use mouse and gyro controls for this version and all that. So yeah, you can play that. Let's see, Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 editions. Those are also there. Mario Kart World was the big one they opened up this whole direct with.
Yep.
And it looks pretty interesting as
going
open world with it. In pretty interesting ways, and especially the like cups. You'll have to drive to the next track between, which is pretty interesting. Kind of a very Outrun-esque kind of thing.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, they also have knockout tours, which is essentially elimination mode, where the person in last place will get knocked out after each checkpoint. So you're trying to survive to win and get into first place.
Yep.
But also have free roam mode, which we don't know if there's going to be specific details like collectibles and objectives and such to do there, but we do know there'll be a direct for this game on April 17th, so we'll have that. When is that?
Yeah.
That is next Thursday, not this one coming up.
Yeah, the game comes out on launch day, so
yeah, the direct will be in about a week and a half. So we'll probably find out more about what else is going on with this, but yeah, this looks pretty good. It supports all the stuff there, and it's going to be $80.
Yeah, we think.
I mean, this one we're pretty sure because it's on Nintendo's website.
Yeah.
One of the two games, though, you have to go to the Mario Kart World page and then scroll down for a while.
Yeah.
Because it's just showing you all the features and all that. And it's like, I just keep scrolling and it's like, all right, June 5th, $79.99. You're like, wait, what? Why is this game the one that goes higher? And it's like,
welcome to the 90s, folks.
Yeah, people pay for it for this game.
Yep.
And it also makes that bundle with the game look a lot more enticing.
Yeah, because you save like $30.
Yeah, save. Because you definitely won't buy other things with that money. That's probably a big part of that bundle is like, hey, we want to have a console that we can sell Mario Karts on for the entire life of it and sell, maybe get into 100 million plus range if they do well enough. But we want people to buy this game and never stop.
Yep.
Imagine I'll have DLC expansions as we keep going. Add more characters and maps and all that. So yeah, this looks like it's going to be their big system seller from the start.
Yep, it's going to be the killer app, I guess. I would say, looking at like the previews of this, it actually reminded me a lot of Diddy Kong Racing back on the N64. because that game also had like this kind of free roaming aspect to it where like it was kind of like it was sort of like Rare's sort of combination of like a kart racer and like a collectathon at the same time. So you had to collect stuff, and then you had to win races, and then you would go to like these different worlds, and each of these different worlds had like hub areas that you would go around in, and like there were always like secrets you would find in like all the individual tracks that would get you stuff. And there were also like boss racers you had to go up against as well. Yeah, just it looks really neat.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hot take of mine, but I actually liked Diddy Kong Racing better than Mario Kart 64. Part of the reason was because Diddy Kong Racing was the game that I got with my N64, so I have that nostalgic feel. But there hasn't been another title that's had sort of an adventure mode in the racer. I think the last one was Mod Nation Racers. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong there, but yeah, like it definitely had that that single player aspect of it that I really enjoyed, and I'm just wondering what Nintendo can pull off with that sort of thing because we know what they can do with their own open world games too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what all their plans are for making use of the open world and all that. So we do have that direct coming up, so we'll find out more then.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was neat to see like there's grind rails and such
Yeah,
to get around.
wall riding and stuff like that as well. Being able to commandeer like a huge semi truck as well.
Yeah, and there's like the notion of collecting some sort of power up that like changes the look of your character.
It's like it looks like a cosmetic type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, which like seems dumb, but it's like not just make that the outfit you play in the whole time, but also I imagine we'll find out in that direct.
Yep.
Why that's important.
So
yeah, there's that. Then yeah, the next one here is probably the other most controversial game, the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour.
Yep.
They mentioned that this was like, oh, this is a neat game of like letting you kind of learn more about the innards of the Switch 2 and the Joy Cons and all that, and what
And I
all
was like,
the
yeah, that
improvements
sounds
are.
cool. And then
Yeah.
you find out that it's a paid thing.
Yeah, you have to pay for it. Seems like in Japan it's 990 yen, so probably like a $10 thing, so not too bad, but should just include it.
Yeah, like it's I mean, that's what Sony did with Astro's Playroom. Just do that.
Yeah, but Nintendo didn't do that with 1-2 Switch. They sold it for $60. Still sell it for $60.
Yeah.
But yeah, this also includes some like tech demo mini game stuff in here as well. That seems neat, but also we don't know the extent of all that. But it's neat for what it's presenting here in a very playful manner, but we don't I don't know why you would really charge for this other than you can and you don't want to give it out for free.
It's just that whole Japanese thing where like they don't want to not get anything for the work that they put in, and I understand it. There's a quote from a Reggie interview a long time ago that he said that without Reggie, Wii Sports would not have been a pack-in, and like that might as well have saved the Wii. And it makes you wish like there was someone like Reggie at NOA. I'm not saying Doug Bowser isn't that guy, but it just goes to show who's pulling the strings here.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. Let's see what else we have here. Nobunaga's Ambition Awakening Complete Edition. This is also another one of those Switch 2 editions with an upgrade. So they're not calling it Switch 2 edition. Also has a similar upgrade for the PS5. So yeah, to read the details, it's an upgrade of the PS4 and Switch 1 edition that includes some extra content and all that you can pay for if you want. There's also some free stuff that's coming with the update for this, so you can decide on that if you want. Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S. They're doing a bonus version of Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 that I assume does not have any sort of upgrade to it. Because that original one's been on the Switch for a while, but yeah, I don't know what this has for additional stuff. Seems like it just adds a 2-player co-op mode. It's like, okay, I guess. I'm surprised that wasn't in the original game. But now you can use your Joy-Con 2 controllers to point on the player's board. to help the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Because that seems neat, but also kind of dumb. I was like, I get that thing of a Tetris thing or Puyo Puyo game. It's like, here's how you be an asshole.
Mm.
Boss them around. Yeah, there's Rune Factory, Guardians of Azuma, Nintendo Switch 2 edition.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thing that got announced pretty recently. So the neat thing is they're delaying the Switch and PC versions to launch alongside this. Those are supposed to be out May 30th, but now they're coming out on June 5th as well. So there's that. Let's see, Sid Meier's Civilization 7 Nintendo Switch 2 edition. So now you'll be able to play with a mouse on this, sort of like the PC version, though I've heard the PC version, people aren't happy with the UI and interface and all that on the PC version. So it's like, all right, I guess this is the one improvement you can make. It probably looks and runs better as well, considering the sort of game this is. But yeah, that's when you'll be able to get. Split Fiction will be there. All the same stuff there.
Yep.
Street Fighter 6 will be here, including 3 amiibos.
Yep.
You'll be able to buy, as well as they'll have another edition that's year 1 and 2 Fighters Edition, include all the DLC with it.
Yep.
So if you want to pay even more money, you can do that.
If you want.
Yeah. Then there's Survival Kids, which I found interesting. This is a Konami follow-up to a franchise that was called Lost in Blue in the West on the Game Boy back in 1999. This is sort of part of a franchise that Konami's had for a while.
Yeah.
Which I would have never known about otherwise. It just seems like a fairly standard survival life sim adventure thing that you can do. You can play with other people. That seems neat, but that seems to be Switch 2 exclusive for that. So that's when you can check out. Then Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, which seems the Director's Cut is they've added English dub to the game. Maybe added like a couple of small things. Yeah, additional scenes starring major characters, and the first ever online multiplayer mode, Red Light Raid. So there you go. That's about all you're getting there. But Yakuza 0 is a very good game. So checking out. So there you go.
Honestly, that's basically that's pretty much I more or less credit the Yakuza 0 with basically being the game that made the Yakuza franchise become like a mainstream success over here.
Yeah.
Because it was that perfect mixture of, 80s nostalgia with, the Yakuza license, and it's, a prequel, so you sort of get the beginning of the whole story. And, it's just got all that combination of all the huge overworld and the goofiness that makes Yakuza so much fun. So, yeah.
So, yeah, there's your launch lineup. Pretty solid list here, though. If you take out the old games here, what do you get?
Not a lot.
Deltarune, Fast Fusion, Mario Kart World, Nintendo Switch 2 Tour, Rune Factory. I would include Split Fiction, considering it's just only a few months old. Survival Kids, and then, not a ton, but Switch 1 launch was pretty barren outside of Breath of the Wild and like 1 or 2 other games. This is an improvement on that, and for the Switch audience is always like, I only care about getting games on Switch. I want my port of this, and this. This is a launch that seems to have a lot of stuff for those people that don't play these games elsewhere. A superior version of Cyberpunk on a PC or whatever. Hitman on the other consoles or any of this other stuff that on a Switch 1 would run like shit and has run like shit for some of these games in the past. So that seems like a pretty decent launch, but yeah, the appetite of people that already own one of the other consoles or PC, and the Switch 2 is their companion to that. That launch lineup is gonna be a little bit rougher, but you can also continue playing your Switch games that you haven't beaten yet and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, then we'll go to the post launch games. which includes a lot of stuff here that was announced in that last direct, like Rhino Remastered, Mystery of the Soulless Army will be out June 19th. Tamagotchi Plaza is June 27th. Donkey Kong Bonanza was the final game.
Yeah.
That's out July 17th.
And that looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it looks like they gave the Donkey Kong brand to the Mario people.
Yep, pretty much.
It has that kind of playfulness to it that
yep.
I would say Donkey Kong hasn't had since, I don't know, maybe the original Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Like, Donkey Kong Country was like a neat idea, but it was also very tech focused.
Yeah, very tech focused and hasn't completely aged very well. At least not the first one.
And then from there, they just continued making that outside of Donkey Kong 64, which is its own level of hell that your soul eroded the more you played it.
Yeah, like that game is arguably like if there was like a thing of like what is the most divisive game that Rare produced for the N64, it's definitely that one.
Yeah,
because like it's there is, you know, like they had, you know, all the previous games they put out, like Banjo-Kazooie, you know, had like, you know, it had a bunch of collectibles, but it was logical, you know? Whereas Donkey Kong 64, like, over half the game is literally nothing but collecting a bunch of random shit.
It's running around and seeing all this transparent stuff. It's like, oh, I need a different character to do whatever minimal thing this is.
Yeah, like on paper, the game sounds amazing, and then you actually pick it up and play it, and it's like, this is garbage.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on the boat that actually I really liked the DK64. At the end of the day, like, yeah, it was, you know, your typical collectathon. You know, to Brandon's point, made it worse by the fact that you had to use one of the other Kongs in order to get certain items. But to me, like, it had a very Metroidvania aspect to it that I wasn't familiar with yet, because at the time I had not played a Castlevania or Metroid, so it was cool seeing that kind of stuff in 3D. Not to mention the one reason why I would say that it hasn't aged all that particularly well is that, especially compared to Banjo-Kazooie was really concise in its approach, and then when Banjo-Tooie came out, Banjo-Tooie was like Banjo-Kazooie like 5.0, like it was that much bigger, but it was too big for its own good.
Yeah, it was really slow.
And then when DK came out, I feel like it was just even bigger from there, and it was eventually doing too much, but at the same time, like the too much it did was all done fairly well, in my opinion. Like, I enjoyed having to play the original Donkey Kong and then Jetpack, you know, those old Rare games from back then, and it was definitely a cool, you know, museum, if you will. But yeah, you know, just to bring it back home and, you know, talk about Bonanza, like, yeah, this game looks terrific. When it was first being shown, I thought it was, you know, Odyssey 2 or whatever it may be. And yeah, I'm just wondering how all this destruction leads to like something that ends up being fun, because I think this can also end up being a detriment to it. But at the same time, like, as far as the way it looks, you know, I love the redesign. It looks way more whimsical than what we're used to. Obviously, he matches the design that we saw in the first Mario Kart footage when the Switch was first, or the Switch 2 was first announced.
Yeah,
and yeah, it looks pretty cool. And then like the weird thing here is, and like, you know, I'll talk about it later as we talk about this whole the entire news pipe as a whole. But I don't understand why this game is $70 and then the Kirby Switch 2 edition is 80. Like that doesn't make sense to me. My whole issue is the inconsistency in the prices, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Yeah, as you mentioned, the big caveat here is that one, Donkey Kong does not give a fuck anymore, so he just busts through the environments, breaking through everything, seeming able to just like dive through the ground and bust out, collecting gold and whatever else there is. In this, you see a lot of little things, but yeah, like the very Mario thing is like seeing like the bosses.
Oh
you see where it's like these characters that aren't just big dudes that you jump on three times until they're beaten. It looks like dudes you'll beat up on, maybe in a very kind of Kirby in the Forgotten Land kind of way, where that was like a big stage, you know, fight against a dude that was very anime in a sense. And with the nature of the way that Donkey Kong looks here, that he's just ready to beat up on dudes with the power of his fists. And that looks like it's going to be a pretty fun kind of game for Donkey Kong that he hasn't had in a long time. For that, it's either been these Donkey Kong Country-esque like precision platformers, essentially, or Donkey Kong 64, which is kind of what if Rare made their type of 3D platformer that had no sense of being able to hold themselves back. Just all the collectibles until you wanted to kill yourself or finish the game, whatever happened first. But yeah, it'll be $70. We don't, like prices still seem weird. The nature of where they're going, and that may be something that has to be reined in at some point or just explained, or just shows up on the eShop or something. Because that's kind of the problem is you see all these retail prices, and it's sort of like, are these the final ones, or are they guessing what's going on? And it's only 2 games that have been shown with prices on the Nintendo site, and it's just Donkey Kong and Mario Kart World. So we'll see. That's July 17th. July 18th is Shadow Labyrinth, Nintendo Switch 2 edition. I'm assuming that'll be the catch-all for like their cross-buy games. For games that you buy the Switch version, you get the Switch 2 version potentially, or for an upgrade. I don't know. That's the other thing we don't know is like you buy the Switch 2 edition and you get both games together. Maybe with that lending system, maybe you'd be able to lend the Switch 1 version to somebody on your family. I don't know. Those are like details we're still waiting to find out how that all works in the details.
Yeah.
So there's that. That's the Metroid game that has Pac-Man in it, where you can like transform into like a big Pac-Man suit, or use him to essentially climb around, sort of like Donkey Kong, more recent Donkey Kong Country games, where you grab it on the roof and all that. There's that. That's July 18th. As you mentioned, July 24th is Super Mario Party Jamboree Nintendo Switch 2 edition. July 25th is No Sleep for Kaname Date from AI The Somnium Files. That's Switch 2, and PC. Shadow Labyrinth is on everything: PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC. Writer Remastered's on everything: PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC. Let's see what else here. Wild Hearts S. That was an EA Partners game when it was on PlayStation and Xbox and PC. This Switch edition is just Koei Tecmo publishing it, so whatever deal they had with EA is over, so Koei Tecmo is publishing this one, and that's out July 25th. And yeah, it seems like they've probably added some stuff to it. But yeah, if you want more Mario or for Monster Hunter on a Switch, where Monster Hunter Wilds isn't on there yet, this seems like your thing to get. Let's see what else we got here. August 27th is Story Seasons Grand Bazaar. That's Switch 2, and PC. As I mentioned, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. There's no Switch 2 editions, August 28th. Let's see. Yeah, the other Nintendo game they announced here, Drag and Drive, or Drag X Drive.
It's Dragon Drive is how it's supposed to be pronounced.
Okay. This was their game. It's like, what if we made a game all around the mouse controls? And this is a 2 mouse control game. It's neat.
It's basically a over-the-top version of wheelchair basketball.
Yeah, it's them making Rocket League wheelchair basketball.
Yeah.
Weird enough, with like half pipes stuff around the hoops, so you just roll up and spin around and dunk from there, and then you get bonus points out of that. And it's like, this has something to it, but stylistic-wise, it's
very drab.
Yeah. The way they have all this environments designed, it looks very, first rough draft kind of look to everything.
Very dark and empty. It even has like this sense of like, man, this like almost cavernous. Like, where like, are we in a bunker somewhere or something?
Yeah, it's like it's set in a big arena where they've darkened out everything but the places that are playing.
Yeah.
Whereas in Rocket League you have the big stands with all the eggs jumping around as you're playing.
Yeah.
It gives kind of a sense of like, oh, people are paying attention to this. Versus here, it's like we've broken into this somehow perfectly set up arena for wheelchair basketball
Yeah.
to run our own like championship league stuff without breaking the law.
Yeah. Honestly, I will say this. Part of, Rocket League's the reason for its longevity is that, they're willing to play with the formula and all these like add-ons and knickknacks that you can add on to the game. If they can bring that to this and also like spruce up the environment a bit, yeah, this game could definitely work really well. The only issue I find with this is that if you think about it, this is basically a really good way to go to Carpal Tunnel City because constantly moving because I don't know if you guys ever, if you were ever ended up at a point where you were in a wheelchair for an extended amount of time. There's a big difference between, moving the wheels on a wheelchair where you're like grabbing down and pushing them forward, with the little rings that go around the wheel, to what these things with the switch mouse is. It's a very much different kind of motion. And it looks very uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because it's not something that you get much on PC, which is using two mice at once.
Yeah, and I love the idea of like wheelchair basketball for a video game. Like,
but yeah, like the bits of them having people like playing this, it looks like somebody that's lost their mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're like dragging these two mice downward a bunch of times on this surface.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I get what they're doing, but it also looks like a very intensive game.
Also looks like a way to very easily damage those Joy-Cons too, from like overuse.
And it's sort of thing I've noticed with this, like using this as a mouse, it looks like a terrible mouse because it's very thin Joy-Cons that you're using on their side, and it's like I already kind of have a little bit of RSI issues with my mouse as it is, where I've thought about getting the ones that are better for carpal tunnel stuff, which just looks like a pop can essentially that you're using as a mouse, and it's like this looks like the exact opposite way I should go.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm betting you can plug in your own mice if you want, or sync them, but I also have not seen that firsthand talked about. But yeah, so that's coming out in the summer, and there's no time frame, no price or anything as far as I've seen. So that's one you can keep an eye on. They also mentioned Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 is coming to the Switch, which I think also teased some SpongeBob thing because they're playing on the one boat map, and yeah, the character goes off this one end of it and lands in the water, and get a very SpongeBob-esque, a few minutes later or whatever, and they're kind of going around Bikini Bottom from what this screenshot seems to show. So I assume they have some tied-in license thing for this. So we'll see how that goes, but that makes sense to be here at some point. Yeah, the game itself launches July 11th. I don't know that's going to be available at launch, but probably not too much longer. Let's see, September 5th is I think the last date they have for anything here. That is for Daemon X Machina, Titanic Scion, which is also coming to PS5, Xbox, and PC, as well as the Switch too. So it's a sequel to the big like mech action game that's was a Switch exclusive for a while, then released on the PC. So that's the thing that will be available. It's a $70 game, it seems. So there's that. And the rest of these all just have time frames. There's a new Hyrule Warriors, Age of Imprisonment, which is what literally every video I saw talking about was like, oh, this is about the modern times.
Yeah.
I feel like here in real life is in the Age of Imprisonment. But this is a prequel to Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
I feel like the last one was also a prequel. But this, I think, directly goes into the
it was a prequel to
Tears of the Kingdom, but this one's directly going into it as it features Zelda in the other timeline.
Yeah, the stuff that you see in the Dragon Tears.
Yeah, the main thing with this one is that it didn't happen immediately after Breath of the Wild. Like some stuff happened in that middle, and this is that middle. Plus, for plot lines like Zelda going back.
Yeah. And also there being no Link. That's the other thing. Like
That you know of,
Zelda
yes.
is the primary person in this story. So
I'm sure they'll find a way to get a link in there, because this is also a Dynasty Warriors style game. So you need all the playable characters you can get for one of these. So they'll have a means for doing that, and I'm sure sell you some DLC as well, all you want. So there's that. So that'll be out this winter. Also available this winter is Witchbrook, which is a Chucklefish game that essentially, what if you are a big Harry Potter fan but don't like all the inherent transphobia to supporting that property these days? Witchbrook seems like your thing, where you go to a magic university, Witchbrook College, to make friends and learn magic and do all this fun stuff in sort of a Stardew Valley-esque kind of life sim thing. So yeah, that'll be Xbox, Switch, Switch 2, and PC, as well as being on Game Pass sometime this winter. So that'll be one you can check out later on. Then we got Borderlands 4, which is just 2025 on Switch 2. The other versions are out September 23rd. So Randy Pitchford was also seemingly like the beginning of the end for this stream as a functioning thing, as people joke about, because he showed up and then issues started happening with the game right after that. So there's that. Elden Ring Tarnished Edition, which includes the DLC, the Erdtree DLC.
Yep.
That'll be out sometime later this year. There's Goodnight Universe, which is Switch 2 and PC. That's later this year.
Yep.
Hades 2 is going to be a Switch and Switch 2 exclusive for consoles.
Which I'm guessing means that, the game will be out of, by that point, that the game will be, out of early access and be a full game.
Yeah, probably. So yeah, that'll be out sometime later this year. Then Hollow Knight Silksong showed up for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
You'd be like, we're still alive, and then everything else everything else happened. So this literally was not as much of a big news story as it would have been in a regular direct.
Yep.
So that still seems, they just put 2025 on it, so no date or anything, just like it's out this year, maybe. We'll see. So yeah, that's PlayStation, Xbox, Switch 2, PC, and also on Game Pass. So that'll be a thing. The second to last game that Nintendo showed was a Kirby Air Rider game. Kirby Air Riders, a sequel to Kirby's Air Ride.
Yep.
For the GameCube. That was a Masahiro Sakurai game, but also it was an alright game. It was one of those like, we're doing everything with Kirby, but making a Kirby game.
Yeah.
And so we made a kart racer kind of game that was alright. And Sakurai is bored of making Smash Brothers, because he said, we're making Kirby Air Riders. That'll be out this year. And very much like the only person that can get a new one of these made is him. And so he wants to make it if he forced Nintendo to fund this thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be out this year.
Yeah, I remember when the original came out. It wasn't that good critically. I never played it. I do eventually want to try it. I hope it ends up on the NSO. But yeah, happy for fans of the series to see this one happening, especially for Sakurai.
Yeah, it's a game that probably won't make him want to
kill himself.
Yeah. He always talks about it. Smash Brothers like he's draining his blood to make it.
Yeah. And the games reflect it. Because look at what happens to like the slow downward trend of every single boss character that happens in that game, where it's like, yeah, it's originally going up a gigs, it's all giggly and everything, and then the last one in the most recent Smash Brothers was literally just, all right, just kill me.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. Other games here, 2025. Talk about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. That's going to be available at some point. Pokemon Legends ZA. Professor Layton in the New World of Steam showed up to be like, hey, we're still here.
Yeah.
We'll definitely be out this year. Definitely.
I hope so, because I want to play it.
Yeah, so that's going to be happening. Sonic and Shadow Generations is coming.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if this was in the direct, but I definitely got a marketing email from Sega. It's like, oh yeah, we're also doing this in the 2 Point Museum as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you just didn't want to pay Nintendo extra to put those two games in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, whatever. Star Wars Outlaws is also coming here because Ubisoft badly wants somebody to buy this game.
Yeah. Like, for God's sakes, people, what do you want?
It's like these people have no standards, so we'll sell
Yeah.
them this. While everybody else is like, ew, we're not paying full price for this.
Mm-mm.
Um, Here's the other big surprise: is the Duskbloods, the new FromSoft game that people are like, this is Bloodborne, and then found out, oh, it's a multiplayer game. It's an 8-player
Yeah.
PvPvE
It's
game.
legally distinct to Bloodborne, I guess you could call it. And yeah, it's a PvPvE game, which I don't think FromSoft has done before.
I think Night Rain is kind of that.
Well, Night Rain's more like a battle royale, isn't it?
I don't know. It's not what I want out of any of these games.
Yeah.
I think like both Duskbloods and Night Rain are going to be similar in that regard because as soon as this was announced, they were like, "Wait, is Miyazaki only doing these multiplayer games now?" Which obviously he shot down, but yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think they're the same type.
But yeah, this one is Miyazaki directed game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's Switch 2 exclusive. It's coming out next year at some point.
Which is basically their way of telling Sony to go fuck themselves.
I mean, Sony owns a portion of their parent company, so they don't
Yeah.
they get money from this either way.
Yep.
Um, and I believe people are suggesting that they own the rights to the game, so they can bring it to other platforms if they want later on.
Yeah.
Because they're from software, they can basically do whatever they want at this point.
Yep. They make so much damn cash that they could pretty much just say, screw it. We're going to take it to Sony now. What are you going to do?
All the hallmarks of a From Software trailer, just people being very weird.
And vague and...
A man in a metal suit just flying around.
Mm-hmm.
For what reason, nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
Big monsters with flowing fur. All kinds of weird stuff in the moon. And all that, so yeah.
Basically, the moon basically looking like Taro Yoko decided to, fully immerse himself in the moon mass for good.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go for that. I believe there should be an interview of sorts on the Nintendo websites with more details if you want to learn that.
Mm.
Let's see. Then the last one that has any sort of date to it is Star Seeker Astroneer Expeditions. This is one of those games that got swallowed up in the stream errors and all that. This is a new Astroneer game that is multiplayer, or like co-op focused, essentially with other people. Where I believe you're going on like missions with other people to complete these objectives and take on enemies and use your tools to do whatever you need to and all that. So that looks neat. That's out next year. That's on PS5, Xbox, Switch, and PC. So we'll check that one out. And everything else here doesn't have a date. It's just like, oh, we're working on this. There's Enter the Gungeon 2, which is another one of the games that got swallowed up in the great stream bit vortex, whatever. It's basically Enter the Gungeon, but what if it was in 3D? Or at least the level and character designs were all in 3D, which looks neat. But yeah, that just seems to be Switch 2 and PC for the moment. Then we got Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade.
Yep, we knew that was coming.
Yeah, that was also part of the Vortex thing that nobody really saw. Just heard Japanese being spoken and hearing Final Fantasy VII being said in Japanese. So
yep,
that's happening at some point. Human Fall Flat 2 is also coming to the Switch 2 as well as PC. So that's I think it's happening at some point.
Yep.
And then EA Sports had a little bit saying we're making Madden and FC games for the Switch 2. Bye. And 2K also had theirs saying They're making NBA and WWE 2K games for the Switch too.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that might be the next game or the one after that. We don't know.
Yeah, it's wild. Like Madden never actually came out on the Switch, and then
Mm-hmm.
with FC, it was always like just changing the year every year. So it's definitely some weird stuff, but happy to see EA finally give Nintendo something to do there.
Mm.
Yeah. So there's that. Then yeah, the part of the Hitman thing is they transition, and we're also doing this, and they showed Project 007, and I mean they showed the barrel of the gun that as the legendary trailer thing. You got to see the camera spin around while inside the barrel. As dumb as that
Mm-hmm.
sounds, it just showed Project 007 on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
So we know nothing else but about the game. Just it still exists, and Switch 2 is a platform it'll be on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there you go for that. Then we had Reanimal,
Yep.
which was the last one here. That's the game from Tarsier, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
They're like little co-op horror adventure game. So that Switch 2 will be part of the launch plans for that for PS5, Xbox, Switch 2, and PC. No date on that yet. So that's from the devs of the Little Nightmares games.
Yep.
And that's it for your games. Bunch of stuff getting announced, and then Friday, all hell went loose because
Yep.
Nintendo put out a little press statement. People saying, hey, our planned April 9th pre-order dates are no longer happening
No, and
because of
guess
these
why?
tariffs. These tariffs
Yeah.
that they, I believe, in the first Trump administration moved at least a good chunk of their production stuff to Vietnam,
Mm-hmm.
out of China to partly out of tariff concerns, and
Yeah.
then when they announced the tariff stuff here on Tuesday or Wednesday, later on Wednesday, it was Vietnam hit with like 46% tariffs, and
Mm-hmm.
China as well has large. So Emerson went like, well, shit.
Mm-hmm.
Our price that's 450 and 500 is a lot. I imagine if the whatever tariffs numbers they were expecting were probably baked into that price,
Yep.
but essentially it being like potentially 2 or 3 or 4 times bigger than that,
Mm-hmm.
probably went like, well, shit, we're gonna lose a ton of money on this
Yeah.
if we just go ahead as planned,
Yeah.
and so we need to scrap that and kind of uh, wait a bit, see what because apparently there are negotiations going on between Vietnam's administration and the Trump's administration that
Yeah.
might help out. But yeah, like people are citing as like, oh, it's going to be solved. And it's like maybe, I don't know. We don't know the way that this is all going, but
Yeah.
it certainly created a lot of memes on social medias. People found, let's say they took the logo for Mario Kart World, but added except for the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
To it. Remember that image of when Trump almost got assassinated? It's like,
Yep.
oh, here's those two images. One saying 399, one saying 659.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, okay, we're going hard on these.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. We have no idea. They said the launch is going ahead as planned for June 6th.
Mm.
But I imagine prices may go up, and if you need a sign of how much of these tariffs can affect prices on things that you were looking forward to, this will seem like a great example if nothing changes between then and now.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, this is made for a whole shit show now. The people are mad about the price in the treehouse streams they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got your wish. It's just going higher.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely quite a week. Quite a last few days after the Switch 2 announcement. Obviously, with the delay in pre-orders, this is definitely a rough thing. I mean, I don't know what your news feeds look like. Obviously, I'm gonna have my fair share of anti-Republican, anti-Trump stuff, but it was definitely louder this week, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
funny how it just all it takes was a little Nintendo to make more people care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's funny is like I've been there this whole time. It's like I fucking warned you. I fucking warned you this was gonna happen.
Yeah.
You think this shit isn't gonna affect you? It's gonna affect you eventually.
Yeah. It's the thing where it's like I was pretty aggressive on the price for the console being in the at least $400 range and all that, and it's like yep, that panned out because it's this is the way consoles are made at this point. These sort of
Mm-hmm.
devices, it's not going to be that much different from where all the Steam Deck and Steam Deck clones are getting priced at, because they're not exactly pulling an Apple and saying we're charging twice as much because we can. Our brand is this strong, or they're not going to take a huge hit on this like let's say Sony in 2006 when the PS3 launched, where they were taking potentially like $200 or $300 in a hit per sale on those consoles. It's like no company's going to do that in this day and age. Nintendo's not going to take a hit on all of these. They're going to price it in a way that makes it um, as financially feasible for them, so they're not losing money hand
Mm-hmm.
over fist on these. They may still price it so they're not losing any money at all, and you'll see exactly what these things would need to be cost to be a net positive for them, which will
Mm-hmm.
not be a great price that people want to pay.
Yep.
I don't know what necessarily the previous sort of tariff price was priced at, but this being at like potentially 40 to 50%
Mm-hmm.
on top could mean this could be as much as $700. I hope it's not. I hope there's some deal that can make it more affordable. But Nintendo, unfortunately, is launching at about as bad of a time as any company could,
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of all of this Trump chaos that's could threaten to sink their chances of selling well for the next couple of years on this thing. Seems like it probably
Yeah,
should do fine in like the EU and Japan and all that. But in the US, this is very much a thing that's the wrong kind of chaos that could affect
Mm-hmm.
their sales numbers for years to come.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and like before anyone points fingers or thinks we're blaming Nintendo or whoever it may be, I want to mention that Nintendo is not blameless in this situation either. It is true that if Microsoft or PlayStation were in this exact situation where they had to release a platform or whatever it may be, this
Mm-hmm.
is just a rough time. And the unfortunate part is we've needed a new Switch for a few years now, and like this just happens to be it. And yeah, unfortunately, it's coming out during a time where there's a lot of um, circumstantial and unfortunate stuff happening in the world, and it's not only in the US. If the US does something, everyone else follows suit. And what makes this difficult is the fact that yes, this eventually will be solved by politics, but I don't think in any scenario this results. If they do solve anything, this will result in lower prices anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason you'll see lower prices are if people don't buy anything. Like that's exactly what happened with the 3DS. But I
Mm-hmm.
also don't think that, like for example, prior to the whole announcement, or prior to the Switch 2 event, I don't think any of us expected the Switch 2 to run 4K 120 frames per second. This system is way more powerful than any of us imagined.
Mm-hmm.
I and that's why I think 450 is worth it. But yeah, and now we're at a point where we have to talk about how much they'd have to raise it by. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point, but it probably will. And again, like any platform holder would have done this,
Mm-hmm.
so it's
Yeah.
weird. But just to go back to what my issues were with just the inconsistency with prices. Like there is
Mm-hmm.
a GameStop or Walmart. I don't know. But there were a bunch of games on that page. They showed Bravely Default for 40. They showed Kirby for 80. They showed Donkey Kong for 70. They showed Mario Kart for 80. I don't know what the rules are. And it's one thing that they've went with their increase, but it's another thing completely when you can't gauge like how much a game will be. I know that there's been talk about Grand Theft Auto reaching 100, and it probably will be at that point. And obviously Nintendo had to lead the way here just just to show that things are increasing. But again, like there has to be like some sort of rules or line to draw, and I just don't know where that is.
Yeah. It's the part of the pre-launch stuff that is as expected, that, things are going to be in flux a bit and waiting for people to announce things and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, having these tariffs hit at that same time, to which you're just adding
Mm-hmm.
a huge amount of chaos to this whole process, that just kind of creates a perfect shitstorm for everybody with opinions, both reasonable and unreasonable, can kind of just go out there and just throw a wrench into everything. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's pretty fun thing. And I'm looking at the Walmart page where they got all the amiibos and all that, and the Street Fighter ones are $30 each, and the Zelda ones, which I don't, they must have been mentioned at some point in that stream, but I don't remember. They have 4 new Zelda ones
Mm-hmm.
tied to the new game, or the Switch 2 editions, and that's neat. But they're also $20 each, and it's like, yeah, I'm not surprised, because these are the sort of things that would be made in China or wherever, and with those increases, um, it certainly should hopefully make people realize, like, the nature of where your electronics are made and how that fits into the overall um, scope of business politics and all that. Because most of your electronics are not made here in the U.S. Most of your physical media, like discs and cartridges, are usually made in Mexico, which is also part of a thing that's being affected here. But that'll also affect your digital prices as well, because they're, at least in this territory, those are often the same prices.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the EU, often digital is higher, because digital goes by the MSRP, and retail just prices whatever the hell they think is going to get rid of those copies.
Mm-hmm.
So they can often undercut digital. Um, yeah, like Japan's in an interesting place, because their yen is pretty weak, which
Mm-hmm.
is why there's a Japan only unit that is much cheaper than everything else, and that's
Mm-hmm.
because, one, the yen is weak, and so as a means of preventing people from importing it and kind of exploiting that difference, in the same way that people create accounts to access the eShop in other countries, that's where the price is often weak, and so games sell much cheaper there, because that's the way that the market works.
Mm-hmm.
They exploit it until they raise the price for the people, the local people, and so they stop bothering with it there. So yeah, they have a Japanese only one that only has Japanese language support, and
Mm-hmm.
support for the Japanese um, territory releases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like even though the yen is weak, like don't get it wrong either. Like Japan means more to Nintendo than any other publisher, so they're definitely
Yeah,
gonna also show some ultimate respect there as well.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but the region free version is like 150, $200 more
Yeah,
over there, because it's the version everybody else gets, and they're pricing that in just because of all the weirdness that's going on, where
yep,
all these tariffs, you would think, like, well, maybe I can import from a very cheap region,
Mm-hmm.
and Nintendo's thought ahead of that, because they're Nintendo. They have plenty of people that are thinking of this stuff. Um, so yeah, it's an awful time to be releasing a new platform, but Nintendo's had the unfortunate luck of being the canary in the coal mine.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, they have had their shares of luck too. I mean, if they didn't have Animal Crossing day one of the pandemic, this is a very different Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it goes sometimes. But I wanted to go ahead and ask you guys this prior to everything happening on Friday. After the Switch 2 presentation, did they do enough to make you guys day one supporters? Or...
I would say I would have gotten it probably regardless.
Mhm.
I'm probably gonna try and get it for Christmas.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, like for me, again, prior to the tariff stuff, I thought 450 was very fair considering the platform ended up being more powerful than I thought they would. Mario Kart looks great, and the bundle for 500 to me makes a lot of sense. I do like the increases or the new stuff they've added to Nintendo Switch Online. Like obviously with the GameCube stuff, there's a lot of added value there as well, especially if you're somebody that didn't have Soul Calibur, Fire Emblem, or F-Zero GX. All of those are extremely expensive right now to get in the secondary market. So those are huge wins there. But yeah, I mean, aside from the negatives I mentioned with the inconsistency of prices, there's that. And I also don't want to be the person that pays $80 for a game. For Mario Kart, I get it, because with Mario Kart, like, that game is always going to have its value, no matter what. And like the main thing with Nintendo games, everyone says they don't go on sale, blah blah blah. But the main thing there is that they're also the easiest to resell, so you don't really have that much of an issue there. But yeah, I definitely was a day one supporter, but with all the tariff stuff happening, like it's going to be a little bit more tough. I was obviously going to get one anyway, just to continue to create content. But yeah, I am wary about what the wallet will actually spend here.
Yeah, yeah, because I was gonna pretty much get it anyway. I registered my interest to pre-order on the My Nintendo store for the bundle because it's like, all right, when I'll have a backup just in case. Because I've definitely had issues with, let's say, Amazon deciding to fuck me over every time I pre-order a thing from them.
I mean, Amazon and Nintendo aren't even friends right now, so there's that.
Yeah. Luckily, like places like Best Buy are saying like we're gonna do midnight launches, which is great. I'm hoping to pre-order there and then pick it up.
Yeah.
'Cause I did that for the Switch One, where it was in March and I believe below freezing here. And I was the smart person that said, fuck waiting in line. I showed up like 20 minutes before midnight and still got mine. Didn't have to sit out in the cold for an hour or two and still got it pretty much at the same time as everybody else.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That being said, the other thing that's hard for me is with its June 5 release date, that's the day before a Summer Game Fest. And I'm going to be there. So I'm like, oh, great. I hope my Switch arrives before then so I can have it on the plane and while I'm on breaks over there. But we'll see.
Yeah. I haven't seen people be like, see when the dates were. And I was like, oh, I leave after midnight. I get to go pick it up and then, hope you get it in time. It's like, yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. Best of luck to people trying to take this on a trip and not get mugged. Hopefully in the process, because it's literally a thing that is brand new and is the thing everybody is talking about in the pop culture. Will be for the next 2 months, so that'll be fun.
When I was in high school, I had my backpack stolen because of the PSP. So totally get that.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have anything else to add. Any games that particularly stuck out for you, or just anything that you hope gets cleared up in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, I already talked about Mario Kart. I am looking forward to that open world aspect. I know the Treehouse was on a few days ago, but I didn't watch it, so I'm not actually sure what that's going to entail. I don't care too much for a lot of the Switch 2 edition stuff, aside from Kirby, because that one's going to have a new adventure. It's cool that the Zelda stuff has new or is going to be available for people with NSO Online. But yeah, like at launch, I do see myself getting Mario Kart as well as Bravely Default, which I'll probably buy digitally because it said that the physical version is just an empty cart with a download, and I'm not a fan of that at all. I might get Yakuza 0 Director's Cut because all of a sudden they decided to make that the best version, and I've never finished that game, so this might be a good chance to go ahead and do that. And yeah, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting until Donkey Kong, and then we'll see what codes I eventually receive from whoever it may be when the times come. But I think that's pretty much it.
How about you, Brandon?
Like I said, I'm probably going to get mine for Christmas, and there are a bunch of titles there I'm interested in. Metro Prime 4 is probably the one, like Nintendo Switch 2 edition game I'm interested in getting. Also, I'm interested in Mario Kart World. That looks really fun. Also, the Donkey Kong game looks a lot of fun. There's a lot of interesting stuff. Like Deltarune, like I'm probably just going to go ahead and get those on my PC because I've already got the app for the for the first two chapters already on here, so there'd be no reason not to. But
I do want to shout out real quick that I'm happy that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are getting free Switch 2 updates because
yeah,
those games need that one. So
desperately,
Yeah.
like very very badly. Let's see. I need to kind of go through the list here again. Come on. There we go. Let's see. Yeah, Bravely Default as well, and also like Dan Reb, I'm probably going to end up just downloading it digitally. And let's see. For the moment, that seems to be it. I might get Hades too, but I'm pretty sure that game will eventually come to other systems as well. But I also really like the first Hades, and I kind of want to play Hades 2 when it becomes a complete thing. So that might end up getting on the Switch 2 sooner rather than later. Yeah, for the moment, that's about it.
Yeah.
I'm also going to quickly complain since I wasn't here last week to talk about it. But, they gave all this love to Raidu Remastered, the Atlas game coming out. And I'm like, come on. Trails in the Sky is also here. Where you at, Falcom? We need you to come out with a Switch 2 version too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will at some point. I know they talk about Ezex Nordics, I think is the one they're
Yes.
bringing over to Switch 2.
Mm-hmm.
The Proud Nordics, they're doing the second version of that.
Mm-hmm.
And you never have to fear they're not going to give you any upgrade path. You have to pay full price for it again.
Mm-hmm.
That is the Falcom way.
Yep.
So yeah. Yeah, for me, like launch, would probably be pretty bare bones. I'd probably just check out Mario Kart World since I get that in the bundle, and probably the Zelda games to see them running well for the first time in a long time. Maybe this will be the point where I bump up to Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack to play the GameCube stuff. Because I have not done that so far. Though I don't know why I would want to do that just for Wind Waker, but I don't know. It's hilarious to me after all the supposed leaks and whatnot about Wind Waker HD hitting the Switch that this is how it comes to the Switch too, is the pure GameCube version, though they are doing like widescreen stuff and all that, so it's some upgraded version of the GameCube version, but it's just hilarious that ended up being the way that's all working. But yeah, and like Kirby and Donkey Kong for the post-launch stuff for the things I'd be most interested in for the near future. But yeah, it's also unfortunate that part of the tariff stuff is that the economy is tanking. So that also means there'll be a lot of unfortunate stuff happening, and that's also made me think like, oh, how much maybe I should curb down the spending for a bit, especially on this Nintendo stuff, not go all in on anything here. Because who knows what's going to happen before then. So we'll see how that all goes. But yeah, I think it's going to end up doing it here. Very long podcast here, but a lot of stuff that needed to be talked about. We'll see how things go for next week. See if any of this is solved or explained by then.
Yeah. Maybe.
They got 2 months to get this thing out, and they certainly would like people to spend money on the thing and know what they're spending money on. So, yeah. But yeah, thank you to Brandon and Danner for joining.
Always.
We'll be back next week with more news and all the things that will be talked about as all this shit happens. If you enjoy the show, let friends and family know. They should check it out and select strangers that are also very concerned about everything that's going on. So, yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have a good week ahead. We will see you all next time. Have a good one.
Bye.